September 2003. Night in Las Cruces, New Mexico. A long weekend, a small house, a crowded party. She leaves alone. No purse, no phone. By dawn, she is gone. Hours later, a lifeless woman is found in a lonely desert dump. The scene is silent. The crime is brutal, and the clues are few. The shocking turn: the person who did this was not a familiar face. He was a stranger with a hidden past. Who was he? Why did he choose her? Welcome to True Crime Vault. Please subscribe, like, and ring the bell to uncover the chilling truths behind real cases. Today, we reopen the file on Katie Sapich. Catherine J. Sapich, affectionately known as Katie by everyone she met, spent her defining years in the sun-drenched town of Carlsbad, New Mexico. As the eldest of three siblings, she naturally assumed a leadership role, a trait that would follow her throughout her life. Her academic pursuits led her to New Mexico State University, where she obtained a business degree. With an insatiable thirst for knowledge, she stood on the precipice of beginning her MBA program at graduate school, eager to tackle the challenges ahead. Her family remembered her as a remarkably articulate, vibrant, and intelligent 22-year-old woman, a natural leader who possessed an unwavering determination to achieve her goals. She was the kind of person who set her sights on something and never wavered until she attained it. Katie's father, Dave, fondly recalled her as extraordinary, a ball of fire. From the moment she entered the world, someone who lived life at a relentless pace, always seeking out new experiences and adventures. From her earliest years, she possessed a boisterous and spirited nature, often staging impromptu performances for her family, transforming their living room into a makeshift theater, or enthusiastically participating in sports, throwing herself into every game with unmatched zeal. She had a sassy demeanor, a playful confidence that was perfectly complemented by a sharp wit, always ready with a clever remark or a humorous observation. Her friend Amy fondly reminisced, "You don't often encounter someone as stunning as she was, yet so self-deprecating. She was always ready to laugh at herself, poke fun at her own quirks, and be the subject of a joke, all while maintaining grace and making everyone else roar with laughter." Katie had the rare ability to make others feel comfortable and at ease, even when she was the center of attention. Katie's younger sister, Caroline, remembered her as someone who viewed everything through the lens of adventure, seeing every day as an opportunity for exploration and discovery. She was genuinely kind and outgoing, always willing to lend a helping hand or offer a word of encouragement, albeit with a touch of bossiness, a side effect of her natural leadership qualities. She enjoyed planning activities, meticulously organizing every detail, to ensure her adventures unfolded according to her vision. She'd confidently proclaim, "This is our plan. Let's make it happen." Her enthusiasm infectious and impossible to resist. In 2003, Katie juggled the demanding roles of a student, a sorority sister, and a waitress, skillfully balancing her academic pursuits, social life, and financial responsibilities. She was also nurturing an 8-month-long relationship with her boyfriend, Joe, a connection that had quickly become an important part of her life. Life was a whirlwind, a constant flurry of activity, and she savored the summer break before returning to the academic grind, looking forward to a brief respite from the pressures of school. However, Katie and Joe's relationship had recently encountered some turbulence, a period of uncertainty that cast a shadow over their future. With Katie poised to commence graduate school, a challenging and time-consuming endeavor, and Joe preparing to relocate several hours away to join his family's business, the distance and diverging paths loomed large, threatening to pull them apart. Nevertheless, they were determined to set aside their concerns, at least temporarily, and relish the Labor Day weekend, seeking to create lasting memories before the inevitable changes arrived. Katie, Joe, Katie's roommate, Tracy, and a group of friends embarked on a night at bar hopping, indulging in drinks, dancing, and revelry, seeking to escape their worries and embrace the carefree spirit of the holiday weekend. As the bars began to close, they migrated to a local house party, joining a gathering of approximately 30 to 40 people, and continued their festivities well into the early hours, fueled by youthful exuberance and the desire to prolonged the night. Security footage from one of the bars captured Katie and Joe holding hands, laughing and smiling, seemingly suggesting that all was well, at least on the surface. However, beneath the veneer of happiness, tensions simmered, waiting for the opportune moment to erupt. The carefree facade would soon crumble. Those tensions flared at the house party when Katie made a devastating discovery: Joe kissing another woman. A heated, drunken argument ensued, witnessed by several partygoers, the air thick with accusations and hurt feelings. The confrontation culminated in Katie's solitary departure from the house at 3 a.m., leaving behind a scene of chaos and heartbreak. Later, Joe and a friend, fueled by alcohol and regret, drove around in Katie's car, desperately searching for her, hoping to reconcile and mend the rift between them. They passed by Katie's house but noticed that her bedroom light was off. Assuming she was inside and asleep, safe and sound, they didn't stop, a decision that would haunt them in the days to come. Returning to the party, Joe succumbed to intoxication and fell asleep in a chair next to the woman he had kissed, a scene of betrayal and broken promises. He was oblivious to the consequences of his actions, unaware of the turmoil and heartache he had caused. When the bleary-eyed group awoke the next morning, the remnants of the night before scattered around them. They realized Katie hadn't returned, her absence a glaring reminder of the previous night's drama. But her car remained parked outside, a silent testament to her presence, yet she was nowhere to be found. Katie resided just a few blocks from the house party, a short walk under normal circumstances, yet she had vanished into the cold, dark night without a phone, purse, keys, or any personal belongings. She had simply walked out empty-handed, leaving behind everything she needed for safety and security, a desperate act fueled by anger and despair. Tracy, aware of the recent strain in Katie and Joe's relationship, confronted Joe, her voice laced with concern and suspicion, asking if they had argued, probing for any information that might shed light on Katie's disappearance. Joe denied any conflict, attempting to downplay the severity of the situation, and omitted any mention of the other woman, further fueling Tracy's suspicions. Growing increasingly concerned, Tracy called everyone she could think of who might have seen or heard from Katie, desperately seeking any sign of her friend, but her efforts yielded no encouraging news, only deepening her anxiety and fear. Urging Joe to be honest, she pressed him about any falling out or events that might have prompted Katie's departure, seeking the truth, no matter how painful. Joe finally admitted to the drunken kiss, his voice filled with remorse, but insisted that was the extent of it. Attempting to minimize his culpability, he speculated that Katie might be trying to teach him a lesson, a misguided attempt at manipulation, and expressed his frustration with her actions, shifting the blame onto her. Tracy rushed back to their house, her heart pounding in her chest, and immediately checked Katie's room, hoping to find her safe and sound. But her worst fears were confirmed. It was untouched, exactly as she had left it the night before. Tracy's mother, who was also staying there, hadn't heard anything during the night, further compounding their concerns. They called the hospitals, desperately seeking any news, but their search proved fruitless. Next, they contacted the police station, inquiring if Katie had been taken into custody for public intoxication, hoping for a simple explanation, but the answer was again negative, dashing their hopes and fueling their fears. Had she sought refuge at a friend's house that Tracy hadn't considered? Had she been struck by a car and was lying injured somewhere, unable to call for help? A multitude of worrying scenarios raced through their minds, each more terrifying than the last, and it was time to report her missing, to enlist the help of law enforcement in their desperate search. 22-year-old graduate student Katie Sepich was walking home from a late Saturday night party. Tonight's investigators have made the case a top priority. We're interviewing witnesses, family, friends, anybody that may have seen her that night at the bars here in town, nearly 200 miles away. Katie's mother, Joanne, awoke that morning with an immediate sense of unease, a feeling of impending doom that settled upon her like a heavy cloak, unable to pinpoint the source of her anxiety, a feeling she attributed to maternal intuition, a mother's sixth sense that something was terribly wrong. I had a very anxious feeling from the time I woke up that morning. Then, at 2:15 that afternoon, the phone rang, shattering their lives with just 6 words. "Have you talked to Katie today?" The innocuous question hung in the air, pregnant with unspoken dread. The police arrived at the student's house and, upon inspecting the backyard, discovered their first clue, a glimmer of hope amidst the growing despair. It appeared that Katie had indeed made it home, at least to the vicinity of her house. They found a damaged screen on the back window, suggesting a forced entry, and one of her sandals lay on the ground, a sign of a struggle. The gravel showed signs of disturbance, as if someone had been dragged, hinting at a violent encounter. As the investigation of the house continued, meticulously examining every room for signs of foul play, another investigation had begun a few hours earlier, miles away from Katie's home. As we drove up, I glanced over. I saw what appeared to be a body, partially nude body. I was looking for signs of life. At 11 a.m., a couple out hunting near an old dump site east of Las Cruces, New Mexico, noticed something unusual, a disturbing sight that shattered the tranquility of the desert landscape. They had spotted the body of a partially clothed woman lying on the ground, a scene of horror and desolation. Her back and shoulders were burned, a gruesome testament to unimaginable cruelty, and her legs were purposefully posed and spread apart, an act of desecration. Tire tracks nearby suggested that a slightly larger vehicle, such as a pickup truck, had dumped her body there, discarding her like a piece of trash. Just a few hours later, the two investigations would converge when 22-year-old Katie was reported missing, linking the unidentified body to the frantic search for the missing student. It was such a vast area of desert, he was lucky they just happened to be there at that time. The heat, plus the animals out there, meant there was a very real possibility that her body might either have not been found or could have decomposed so much that no one could determine a cause of death. The police asked Tracy to come and identify someone, possibly connected to Katie's missing persons case, a request that filled her with a mixture of hope and trepidation. She eagerly agreed, assuming that her friend had perhaps wandered into a police station or hospital without her ID and needed someone to pick her up, a relatively minor inconvenience. She thought it was simply a standard procedure, a routine matter. She had no idea what she was about to confront, the unimaginable horror that awaited her. As they pulled back the body bag, revealing the lifeless form beneath, Tracy was overcome with disbelief, her world collapsing around her. She said Katie looked like she had died in agony, unrecognizable from the happy, vibrant friend she knew. Her face contorted in a silent scream. The autopsy confirmed their worst fears. Katie had been raped and strangled, the victim of a brutal and senseless act of violence. A liquid had been poured on her back and shoulders, and she had been partially burned before the fire extinguished itself, leaving behind a scene of unspeakable suffering. Bloody DNA was found under her fingernails, a testament to a violent struggle for her life, a desperate attempt to fight off her attacker until the very end. No signs of a struggle were found in the immediate area where her body was discovered, suggesting she had been killed elsewhere, possibly near her house or just outside, before being transported to the desolate dump site. Her watch and 2 rings that she had been wearing were also missing, presumably taken by her killer as trophies or to conceal his identity. Her parents recounted that Katie had a naturally husky voice, making it difficult for her to scream, a cruel twist of fate that silenced her cries for help. This had been a lifelong characteristic, a minor quirk, that now carried devastating weight. Even as a child, any attempt to scream would only produce a faint, breathy sound. Nothing audible would come out. This fact deeply haunted those who knew her, the thought that she couldn't scream or call for help despite desperately trying, her voice trapped within her, unable to reach the outside world. The DNA was uploaded to CODIS, the national DNA database, but yielded no matches, which was unexpected given the horrific nature of the crime and the extent of her injuries. They had hoped it would flag a previous offender, someone already known to the criminal justice system, but the database remained silent, offering no clues. The investigation returned to the house party, and detectives interviewed those closest to her, including her roommate Tracy and her boyfriend Joe, seeking made her unravel the events of that fateful night and identify any potential suspects. Joe withheld information about the fight they had had that morning, attempting to paint a picture of a loving and harmonious relationship, and claimed that, despite their uncertain future and the challenges of being apart, he had envisioned marrying her and starting a family. He even said that they had been looking at rings and that Joe had bought one with her birthstone, a promise ring, a symbol of their future together, a lie designed to deflect Suspicion. You know you're here. Yeah, you know it's not good. Okay. Yes, sir. Girlfriend Katie has passed away. Okay. Get married. What happened, however, suspicions arose when Joe not only admitted to the fight and the drunken kiss, revealing the cracks in his carefully constructed facade, but was also the only person out of nearly 40 people at the party who refused to provide a DNA sample, raising a red flag and casting a long shadow of doubt over him. Audio from an interrogation. I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more about what happened. Just last night she got mad at me. Came home from the bar, she got mad at me because I was kind of pulling her off. My roommate's sister, she walked in, and then she left, and that's the laugh. That's the last time I saw her. I drove by her house. Her light wasn't on, so I didn't stop. I was really drunk. I really didn't care. I kind of like that, I think. I don't care about a relationship very much. And they're really faithful as they should be. He denied any involvement in Katie's death, vehemently protesting his innocence. He conceded that they had argued and that everything had gone wrong that night, admitting to his mistakes and shortcomings. But a killer? Never. Did you kill her? No, sir. How did it happen? What? Sir, her dad. I don't know, sir. I know nothing about it. Sir, I know nothing about it. I feel so bad. Kitty was everything to me. If she was everything to you, why were you going around on her own? I don't know, sir. I get drunk. I'm stupid, you know. He had made several calls to Katie's phone that morning, but witnesses at the party said he was in possession of her phone, purse, and keys at the time, a glaring inconsistency that further fueled the suspicions against him. Why bother calling her if he already had her belongings? Was he trying to create an alibi to distance himself from the crime? Within days of Katie's murder, Joe left to return to his family's home, 300 miles away, fleeing the scene of the crime and further solidifying the perception of his guilt. Investigators asked him to come back for a second interview, but he declined, refusing to cooperate and hindering their efforts to find the truth. His parents hired an attorney for him, who advised him to remain silent, further isolating him from the investigation. At this point, the police focused solely on him, their attention laser-focused on the suspicious boyfriend. His actions were undeniably suspicious, his behavior a clear indication of guilt, at least in the eyes of law enforcement. He was the same person who tearfully told detectives that he wanted to marry Katie and couldn't live without her, yet he appeared to be cutting himself off completely from the investigation, refusing to cooperate and avoiding even the simplest questions. His lawyer claimed he disliked the way the investigation was being handled and took a step back, a weak excuse for his client's lack of cooperation. At this point, without probable cause, they could not force him to return, participate in an interview, or provide a DNA sample, their hands tied by the limitations of the legal system. Katie's family was caught off guard, their world turned upside down. Their experiences with Joe had always been positive. He seemed to adore Katie, treating her with respect and affection. Her parents initially believed that a stranger had committed the crime, a random act of violence, and not someone she knew, certainly not Joe. Tracy shared the same sentiment, unable to reconcile the image of the loving boyfriend with the possibility of him being a killer. Over 1,000 people attended Katie's funeral, a testament to the impact she had on her community. Speakers had to be set up outside to accommodate those who couldn't fit inside the church, a sea of mourners united in grief. But Joe was conspicuously absent, his absence a glaring reminder of the cloud of suspicion that hung over him. Learning that people were expressing their disapproval of his attendance, their anger palpable and their judgment harsh, Joe chose to stay away, further alienating himself from Katie's family and friends. For Katie's family, it was another layer of confusion and heartbreak, another blow to their already shattered hearts. They couldn't understand him, his actions defying logic and reason. With so many vehicles parked at the church, the investigation continued outside. Even amidst the grief and mourning, tires would be inspected, hoping for a match to the tracks near her body, but nothing fit. Another dead end in the frustrating search for justice. Detectives even hid a camera by her grave, hoping to capture any revealing statements if Joe were to visit, hoping for a confession or a slip-up. But again, nothing. A $50,000 reward was offered for information, leading to the arrest and conviction of Katie's killer, a desperate attempt to break the silence and encourage someone to come forward. and it would soon double, further increasing the pressure on those who knew something but were afraid to speak. However, the investigation took an unexpected turn when detectives eventually obtained Joe's DNA from Katie's bedroom, completely exonerating him, clearing him of all suspicion. After learning this, Joe spoke with detectives and finally agreed to provide a sample. His cooperation finally offered after weeks of stonewalling. He explained that he had been hesitant earlier because they had recently slept together, and he feared being wrongly implicated, a plausible explanation that finally shed light on his previous reluctance. Finally, Joe, who was no longer a suspect, allowing the police to move on, to shift their focus to other potential leads. But valuable time had been lost, time that could have been spent pursuing other avenues of investigation. Detective Mark Mears said, "I'd be hard-pressed to not want to punch him in the throat. The way Joe could have just done what he needed to for Katie's family and didn't. His changing stories, the lack of cooperation, there was really no need for any of it." Dave agreed, saying that so much time had been wasted focusing on him, time that could have been used more effectively to find the real killer. Investigators then stumbled upon what they believed was a new lead, a glimmer of hope that would take them 1,500 miles away, across state lines and into a new realm of possibilities. 11 days before Katie's murder, a 25-year-old woman was attacked by two men in Green Bay, Wisconsin, a crime that bore striking similarities to Katie's case. After arguing with her boyfriend, she had left a bar and walked out into the night, a vulnerable target in the darkness. Two men forced her into the back of a truck and drove her to a secluded farm, a terrifying abduction that mirrored the circumstances surrounding Katie's disappearance. She was raped, strangled, and had something poured on her before being set on fire and left for dead, a gruesome act of violence that mirrored the horrors inflicted upon Katie. The woman crawled to a house, her body ravaged and her spirit broken, and the homeowner called 911, summoning help and setting in motion a chain of events that would eventually intersect with Katie's case. Know what the vehicle was that these people were in? Oh, now I can smell the burn on her. You can smell the burn. Yeah, you know her flesh. Yeah, we can see you were lit on fire. Was there one or two people? Do you know what did they look like? Were they tall, short? Incredibly, she survived, defying the odds, and clinging to life with extraordinary resilience, and was able to provide enough details to create sketches of her attackers, valuable information that would prove crucial in identifying the perpetrators. The similarities between the cases were striking, prompting questions about a possible link despite the distance, a connection that could potentially unlock the mystery surrounding Katie's murder. With limited leads, police had to explore every possibility, no matter how remote or improbable, driven by the need to find justice for Katie and prevent further tragedies. As soon as the sketches were released, a dairy farm manager recognized them as two of his employees, 27-year-old Gregorio Morales and 23-year-old Juanito, two men who had seemed unremarkable just days before. The pair had quickly left town after the attack, fleeing the consequences of their actions and attempting to escape justice. But Gregorio had recently returned and was back at work, unaware that his past was about to catch up with him. The manager devised a plan with the officers to obtain Gregorio's DNA, a covert operation designed to gather evidence without alerting the suspect. After giving him a drink, he kept the bottle and gave it to the police, the discarded bottle becoming a crucial piece of evidence. Several months later, his DNA was matched to the Green Bay victim, confirming his involvement in the brutal attack. He was convicted of 2 counts of sexual assault, kidnapping, and first-degree reckless injury, and sentenced to 50 years in prison, his freedom taken away as punishment for his heinous crimes. Juanito, believed to have poured the liquid on the woman before she was burned, was also arrested and accepted a plea deal, resulting in a 70-year prison sentence. His role in the crime finally brought to light. However, despite the striking similarities between the crimes, neither Gregorio nor Juan's DNA matched Katie's case, dashing their hopes and returning them to square zero. Detectives felt they were back to square zero, not even square one. Their efforts seemingly futile and their investigation stalled. Everyone was frustrated by their inability to solve the case, the weight of the unsolved mystery bearing down on them. Time passed, and it had been more than 2 years since Katie's body was found, the investigation growing cold, and the chances of finding her killer diminishing with each passing day. This is where we go backwards a bit to move forward in her case. to revisit a seemingly unrelated event that would eventually prove to be the key to unlocking the mystery. 9 weeks after Katie's murder, a man armed with a knife broke into the apartment of 2 New Mexico State students, a terrifying intrusion that could have had devastating consequences. Anella and Leslie managed to hide in the bathroom and made a harrowing 911 call, their voices filled with fear and desperation. 911 City. What's your emergency? I call someone trying to break into our house. What's your name, Vanilla? I need you to calm down. Okay. There. I don't know. Both women had noticed this man, watching them before, lurking outside their building and peering into their windows. His presence a constant source of unease and anxiety. But now he was inside their sanctuary, threatening their safety and security. If the police hadn't arrived in time, who knows what could have happened, what horrors might have unfolded. Fortunately, they did, and officers arrested the 23-year-old man, whose name was Gabriel Ayla, preventing a potential tragedy. The judge released him on bail to get his affairs in order, a decision that continues to baffle investigators to this day, a questionable judgment that allowed a dangerous predator to roam free. Facing 9 years in prison for the crime, Gabriel fled to Mexico, attempting to evade justice and escape the consequences of his actions, where he remained on the run until 2005, a fugitive from the law. Finally, he was caught trying to re-enter the United States. His attempt at escape thwarted a year later. He was convicted of aggravated burglary with intent to commit aggravated assault and sentenced to 9 years in prison. His criminal career finally brought to a halt. Now in prison, Gabriel had to submit a DNA sample, as required by law, and detectives were stunned when, years later, it matched the DNA from Katie's crime scene, a revelation that shattered their assumptions and pointed them in a new direction. Gabriel's name was unknown to authorities in Las Cruces, and no one in Katie's circle had ever heard of him, a complete stranger who had inexplicably entered their lives and changed them forever. His ex-wife, who had filed for divorce after his burglary conviction, had found a ring in his truck, a seemingly insignificant detail that would prove to be a crucial piece of evidence. Unbeknownst to her, it was Katie's, a stolen memento of a life taken too soon. Police asked her about the truck he must have been driving at the time, hoping to trace his movements and establish his connection to the crime scene. She said Gabriel had sold it, but she could still contact the new owners, a valuable lead that offered a glimmer of hope. Even though the tire had been replaced, the original tires discarded, they located the originals, hidden away in a storage unit. This was another match to Katie's crime scene, the tire tracks confirming that his vehicle had been present at the dump site where her body was found. Before the case went to trial, faced with overwhelming evidence and the inevitability of conviction, Gabriel confessed, finally admitting to his heinous crimes. He claimed that he had nearly hit her with his truck that morning after leaving his dealer's house to buy cocaine, seeking to explain his presence in the area. He pulled over and offered her a ride home, but she refused, as she was only a couple of blocks away, her rejection fueling his anger and resentment. He said she looked drunk, but she insisted she was fine, her denial further inflaming his rage. Gabriel drove off but passed her again, a few minutes later watching as she stood outside, trying to get in through her window, her vulnerability triggering his predatory instincts. He asked again if she was okay, and she replied, "I just can't get into my house. I don't have my purse," her desperation sparking his depraved intentions. Gabriel claimed that he suddenly lost control, overtaken by an uncontrollable urge, and launched his attack, raping her before strangling her to death and putting her into his truck, his actions driven by a dark and twisted impulse. He drove and dumped her body, attempting to burn any evidence, seeking to erase any trace of his involvement and escape justice. Detective Mark Mears commented that the chances of Gabriel seeing Katie that night were incredibly slim, a confluence of circumstances that led to a tragic and avoidable outcome. If she had left 30 seconds earlier or later, he would have never encountered her, a small change that could have saved her life. He said, "Today, we are rejoicing that it looks like we have the person who killed our daughter. We're so incredibly grateful for all of the hard work." The day after Christmas, a day that should have been filled with joy and celebration, Gabriel Ayla was charged with murder and kidnapping. His crimes finally brought to light. It would have been Katie's 26th birthday, a poignant reminder of the life that was stolen from her. The DA, Susana Martinez, said she was not prepared to drop any charges, determined to hold him accountable for his actions, and there was no possibility of a plea bargain, sending a clear message that justice would be served. Susanna stated that she was confident she would win the trial, and he and his lawyers knew it, their defense crumbling under the weight of the evidence. In May 2007, Gabriel Lavilla pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, rape, kidnapping, and tampering, with evidence finally accepting responsibility for his heinous crimes. He asked to apologize to the Sepich family, his words a hollow echo of the pain he had caused, and said he didn't know why he had done it. A pathetic attempt to excuse his inexcusable behavior. Dave said he did see and hear remorse from him, which in a way was something, but it changed nothing. His apology unable to undo the damage he had inflicted. Jan said she had forgiven him because she wanted him to have salvation. Her act of forgiveness, a testament to her strength and faith. He was sentenced to 6-9 years in prison and would be eligible for parole in 2043 after serving 30 years of his sentence, a long time behind bars, but a small price to pay for the life he had taken. However, it seems unlikely that he will be successful, given the violent nature of his crimes. His chances of parole, slim 18. That's how many. Cold Cases 1 New Mexico Police Department has reopened just this year. Officers say the success of Katie's Law has a lot to do with it. Katie's family dedicated themselves to creating change, determined to transform their tragedy into something positive, to honor Katie's memory by preventing similar tragedies from happening to others. When Katie was murdered, it was illegal in New Mexico and nearly every other state to collect DNA upon arrest, a loophole in the system that allowed dangerous criminals to remain free. DNA was only entered into the system upon conviction and imprisonment, a reactive approach that failed to prevent crime. Diane said, I began doing research. I learned that almost every state took DNA upon a felony conviction, but at that time only 5 had laws allowing DNA to be taken upon felony arrest. I dug deeper. I read case studies and found examples of lives that could have been saved. I soon discovered that I was not interested in seeing DNA taken upon arrest merely to solve my daughter's murder. I was determined to see this happen because this simple act could literally save thousands of lives. She read about a man named Chester Dwayne Turner, who was arrested in California for assault with a deadly weapon, but there was not enough evidence to convict him, so his DNA was not taken, a missed opportunity that would have devastating consequences. He was then arrested a total of 21 times before his DNA was finally taken, his crimes escalating and his trail of victims growing longer. It was then that authorities realized his DNA matched crime scene evidence from 12 rape and murder victims, a horrifying revelation that highlighted the importance of DNA collection upon arrest. Things had to change. The system needed to be reformed to protect innocent lives. You might remember the name Katie Sepich. Her name is back in the headlines. On Friday, the Senate passed Katie's Law, a bill that would help states set up DNA databases for people arrested for felonies. Victory tonight for one New Mexico family trying to make sure their daughter's murder resulted in meaningful action. President Obama has just signed a nationwide version of Katie's Law. New Mexico has already had Katie's Law on the books since 2007. It's named for former NMSU student Katie Sepich, a bill to expand the state's Katie's Law is also moving forward at the Roundhouse. It's a bittersweet week for the family of Katie Sepich. I'm proud to say that 2 days after what would have been Katie's 32nd birthday, the Senate passed our bill unanimously. The day after Christmas was Katie's birthday. She would have been 32. And so, we still miss her every day. Katie's Law went into effect in New Mexico in 2006, marking a significant turning point in the fight against crime. This law requires anyone arrested for a violent crime to submit a DNA sample, creating a proactive system that can quickly identify and apprehend criminals. When Gabriel attacked Anala and Leslie less than 3 months after Katie's murder, had Katie's Law been in effect, Gabriel would have been in the system, his DNA on file and his identity quickly revealed. Jan understood that, while it wouldn't have brought Katie back, earlier DNA collection would have swiftly removed the perpetrator from the streets, preventing further harm and saving innocent lives. To date, 31 states have enacted Katie's Law or similar legislation, a testament to its effectiveness and the growing recognition of the importance of DNA collection in fighting crime. In 2011, the law's scope broadened to include all felony arrests, further expanding its reach and increasing its potential impact. Driven by her experience, Jan established DNA saves, a non-profit dedicated to educating both lawmakers and the public about the profound impact of DNA testing, advocating for its wider adoption and promoting its use in solving crimes. Her family, after 2 decades of tireless advocacy, acknowledges they will never know the full extent of Katie's law's positive impact, yet they are sustained by the knowledge that it is helping others. Knowing that their efforts have made a difference, they firmly believe that Katie's law will lead to the resolution of numerous unsolved crimes, prevent future tragedies, and protect innocent individuals from wrongful prosecution, creating a safer and more just society. Earlier today, our cameras captured the Albuquerque police apprehending a suspect in the rape of an elderly woman, a swift arrest made possible by Katie's law. Francisco Perez, 27, accused of attacking a 76-year-old woman at Alamosa Elementary School, a heinous crime that shocked the community. The Albuquerque Police Department credits Katie's law, the state's DNA collection statute, for their ability to swiftly identify and apprehend Perez, bringing him to justice and providing a sense of closure to the victim. The state has been haunted for years by unsolved rape and murder cases, like the tragic deaths of Susan Laporte and Maria Padilla, both strangled in 1985, their cases remaining cold for decades. Now, the Santa Fe Police Department is embarking on a determined effort to bring closure to these cold cases, reopening 318 of them, driven by the hope that DNA evidence can finally identify the perpetrators and bring justice to the victims and their families. Lieutenant Andrea Dobbins revealed that the PD maintains a secure storage with a substantial amount of evidence collected over the years and waiting to be analyzed. In July, law enforcement dispatched a multitude of samples, hair strands, blood stains, and articles of clothing to the State Crime Laboratory, driven by a renewed determination to finally bring closure to these long-dormant cases that had haunted the files for years. Recently, an even larger batch of DNA samples was submitted, signaling a significant escalation in the investigative efforts. Lieutenant Dobbins is quick to point out that this reinvigorated focus on cold cases is a direct consequence of the demonstrable success of Katie's law, which had provided the resources and impetus necessary to reopen these investigations. Katie's younger brother AJ remembers looking up to his big sister with a mixture of admiration and gratitude. She wasn't just a sibling, she was both a mother figure, offering guidance and support, and a sister, sharing laughter and secrets. He fondly recalls his childhood attempts to become a backup singer during the family's spontaneous sing-alongs, moments filled with joy and harmony. Although she didn't always appreciate him stealing her thunder, hogging the spotlight during their performances, she was always fiercely protective of him, a constant guardian against the world's harshness. No one messed with him, he said, his voice thick with emotion. She was fiercely protective. She had my back, always. It's such a blow to your soul, hey, devastating wound that leaves you reeling. You really just don't know how to keep moving forward, how to put one foot in front of the other. And there's no sight from anything beyond the next minute, the next breath, each moment a struggle for survival. Kitty was a lot to handle, a force of nature, but also a lot to have behind you and on your side, an unwavering ally in a world that often felt indifferent. She was always my protector, my confidant, but also my best friend, the one I could always count on. Caroline, who was only a tender 9 years old when her sister tragically passed away, shared a poignant memory, her voice laced with a hint of lingering sadness. My visual memories of my life right after my sister died are really crisp and clear, etched in my mind with painful accuracy, but they're not vibrant, not filled with the warmth and color I remember. It's as if this very bright light of love, the light that Katie radiated, was just gone, leaving a void that nothing could fill. Jan, Katie's mother, has been forced to adopt a new perspective, a hard-won acceptance born from unimaginable grief. She actively fights against the insidious cycle of what-ifs and maybes, the constant replay of events that could have, should have, might have been a torturous loop that threatens to consume her. Following her daughter's untimely death, she resolved to eliminate the word if from her vocabulary, recognizing it as a venomous word that served no purpose other than to inflict further pain. Face. What is, she said, her voice firm despite the underlying sorrow. Try to change what you can to make a difference where possible. But don't look back and say, what if? That road only leads to despair. In the end, the case of Katie Sepich reminds us of something larger than a single crime. It is a lesson about how fragile life can be, and how the smallest shift in time, in place, or in choice can change everything. It shows us that danger does not always come from familiar faces. Sometimes it appears in the quietest moment, from a stranger passing through the night. Action, transforming loss into a law that now protects countless people across the country. Katie's story is not only a tragedy, it is a call to awareness, a call to trust your instincts, a call to look out for each other. If this story moved you, if you believe that remembering these victims matters, then I invite you to support this channel. Your subscribe, your like, your share, they help keep these stories alive, and they allow us to continue uncovering the truth behind cases that shaped our world. Stay with us in the True Crime Vault. Explore more real investigations. Learn the lessons hidden beneath each case. And together, may we build a safer, more vigilant community.